It started on a night that felt alive with menace, a night that had its own breath and heartbeat. The wind came shrieking off the Atlantic, tearing at the ancient hills of South Downs, battering the twisted oaks and sending sleet and hail screaming sideways through the darkness. Sam Turner stood in the tiny prefab ranger station. His eyes narrowed as he watched the rain lash the glass. The heater rattled, barely making a dent in the cold that pressed in from every direction. It was the kind of winter storm that turned the familiar green ridges and wild horse trails into a shifting, haunted wasteland. He zipped up his faded jacket and pulled on a battered wool hat, jaw clenched, moving with the steady purpose of a man who'd seen plenty of rough nights alone on these hills. 45 years old, face weathered, Sam lived for these lands and for the wild horses that roamed them. A vanishing legend of England, and maybe of himself, too. The two-way radio crackled to life, a hiss and then a sharp female voice. "Sam, this is Ellie. I'm at the barn. That storm's coming in harder than they said. Where are you?" Sam pressed the button, his tone flat, but with a warmth that only showed up for those he trusted. "On my way up the ridge. Got the drone kit from Liam. Figured it's a good night to see who's still out there." There was a pause, then the sound of laughter, edged with nerves. "You're crazy, Sam, but I'll meet you by the old stone wall in 10 minutes. Let's not lose any more tonight." He headed out into the storm, boots squelching through mud and wet grass. The rain struck like needles. Sam squinted, remembering the first time he'd come to South Downs, when he still believed every life could be saved, and when wild horses seemed like spirits you might chase forever. Now there were only a few herds left, clinging to the chalk hills, and Sam felt the weight of every winter, every loss, like stones in his pockets. By the time he reached the wall, a mossy remnant of some forgotten farm, the headlights of Ellie Brooks's battered Subaru glowed through the swirling rain. She jumped out, teeth chattering, pulling her hood tight. "If we find any horses tonight, they'll be smarter than we are." Sam grinned, his breath steaming in the dark. "You say that every time, but you never stay home." Ellie laughed, shaking out a bag of medical gear. She was younger, 32, but already carried the hard lines around her eyes that came from too many heartbreaks in the field. "Let's get moving." Liam's already in position up on the north ridge with his drones. They hiked up through the sodden grass, the sky flickering with distant lightning. Ellie's boots slipped on the muddy trail. Sam reached for her arm, steadying her, then looked up as a pale green light shimmered on the hill above. "There's Liam," he said, pointing. Liam Patel was hunched under a tarp, his drone controller glowing blue in the dark, goggles pushed up on his forehead. "Evening, party animals. Couldn't have picked a better night for it, huh? My hands are frozen." Sam shot him a wry look. "Just tell me you've got eyes on the herd." Liam's face broke into a crooked grin as he angled the controller. "Thermal picked up about 6 signatures in the lower pasture. But wait, there's something else, bigger, down by the gorse bushes. It's not moving." Sam's heart skipped. "Show me." Liam turned the screen so Sam and Ellie could see. The thermal image was grainy, but clear enough. A big, glowing form, sprawled in the mud, heat radiating out in pulses. Beside it, barely visible, a flicker of movement, much smaller. Liam frowned, his usual banter falling away. "That's weird. Might be a stag, but..." Ellie leaned in, eyes wide. "That's not a deer. Sam, that's one of the lead mares. Look at the size, the shape. And there's something tucked in close, maybe a foal." The wind howled, drowning out the rest of her words. Sam didn't hesitate. We have to go, now. If it's a mare and foal, they won't survive this cold. The three of them took off, fighting through the rain, Liam's drone leading the way, its little green light bouncing ahead. The ground was slick, and every step was a struggle. Sam felt his heart hammering in his chest, every instinct screaming danger, hurry, don't let them die. Lightning flashed, lighting up the world in ghostly white. The mare lay half buried in mud, her flanks heaving, blood streaked down one leg. Ellie dropped to her knees beside her, hands working fast, checking for broken bones, for wounds she could treat. Sam held the mare's head, whispering to her, the old words that seemed to calm even the wildest animal. Easy, girl. We're here. Hold on. Liam swung the drone's spotlight down, bathing them in cold blue light. I'll radio the center for backup. Ellie peeled back the mare's legs, gasping. Sam, look! Underneath the trembling body, almost invisible in the muck, was a newborn foal. Its tiny sides barely moved, and its eyes were half shut, lashes clumped with mud and rain. Sam felt a wave of despair, so small, so helpless, and the storm only getting worse. We have to work fast. If that foal's not warmed up and fed, we'll lose them both. Ellie's hands were shaking as she fished out thermal blankets, her voice taut. Sam held the mare, feeling her strength slipping away. Liam's voice, sharp and scared, cut through the storm. We're not alone. Someone's coming up the ridge. But in that moment, nothing mattered except the lives lying in the mud, teetering between this world and the next. Sam locked eyes with Ellie. We saved them, whatever it takes. And as the storm raged on, the night felt suspended. 3 people, 2 horses, and the wild, fighting for hope on the haunted hills of South Downs. The rain kept hammering down as Sam, Ellie, and Liam huddled around the stricken mare and the barely breathing foal. For a few heartbeats, it was as if the world narrowed to that patch of mud, the ragged breathing of the horse, and the harsh gasp of the storm. Ellie wiped her hands on her jeans, knelt again, and examined the mare's wounded leg, fingers careful but urgent. Blood seeped from a deep gash, dark against the pale gray coat, and Sam could feel the mare trembling, her breaths shallow. He glanced at Liam, who had both hands wrapped around the drone controller, eyes darting between the glowing screen and the swirling darkness beyond the circle of light. Ellie, can she move? Sam's voice was low, but the worry in it pressed hard. Ellie shook her head. Not without help. She's losing blood. She's shocky. We can't risk it. And the foal, Sam, I think it's hypothermic. Look, its gums are pale. It's barely conscious. Sam swore under his breath, then steadied himself, brushing the mare's forelock aside. We're gonna help you, girl. Just hang on. Liam spoke, softer than usual, the wind taking his words. Guys, we've got a window. My drone picked up movement down the path, but it's just a couple of badgers. The rest of the herd's up the slope. If we're doing something, now's the time. Ellie yanked open her pack, pulling out a silver thermal blanket and a portable heating pad. Sam, help me roll the foal out. Liam, get those tarps. Shield us from the wind. Sam slid his arms under the foal, wincing at how light and cold the little creature felt. The mare's head lifted, her ears flicking, her muscles tensed as if to protest. But Sam murmured gently, We're not taking her. Just helping. Easy. Together, he and Ellie managed to move the foal just far enough to wrap it in the blanket. Ellie slipped the heating pad under its belly, massaging its legs, trying to coax life back into its limp frame. Come on, little one. Come back to us. Lightning cracked. lighting up the entire ridge, and thunder rolled after, so loud it seemed to shake the very ground. Sam's heart was racing. Every second mattered. Ellie reached for the emergency milk replacer, warming it with trembling hands. "Sam, can you try to feed her? Just a few drops at first. She won't be able to suck. You'll have to drip it." Sam nodded, holding the bottle near the foal's muzzle, using his thumb to open the tiny mouth. Drops of the warm liquid beaded on its lips. Then slowly, slowly, the foal's tongue moved. Ellie let out a shaky breath. "That's it, sweetheart. You're a fighter, aren't you?" The mare's eyes never left her baby. Sam stroked her cheek. "She's trying, Mama. You just rest. Let us work." Liam returned, struggling against the wind with 2 tarps and a flashlight clenched between his teeth. He anchored the tarps on 3 sides, blocking the worst of the sleet. "Rescue's on the way. They said 20 minutes out, but in this storm, who knows? Should I try for another drone sweep, see if there's anyone nearby who can help?" Ellie shook her head, glancing at the mare's wound. "We can't wait. I have to stitch her up here. Sam, I need you to keep the foal warm. Don't stop rubbing. Liam, shine that light here. No, closer to her leg." As Ellie prepped her field kit, she glanced at Sam. For a second, her face was open, raw worry, exhaustion, hope, and fear all battling inside her. "Sam, you okay?" He nodded, even as his hands shook a little. "Yeah, I've done this before, but not in a storm like this. Not with 2 lives hanging in the balance." Ellie took a breath and started cleaning the wound, her hands steady. "Every animal is different. Every night is different. That's why we do this, right?" Sam didn't answer, but in that moment, he remembered every failed rescue, every time he'd come too late. "Not tonight," he thought. "Not tonight." Ellie stitched the wound as fast as she dared, wincing every time the mare flinched. Blood welled up, then slowed as the wound closed. The rain slowed for a moment, a lull in the storm, and for just a second, there was peace. The 3 humans and 2 horses cocooned in their fragile shelter, fighting the darkness together. Suddenly, Liam tensed. "Shh! Did you hear that?" Sam froze. Above the howl of the wind, another sound, distant but getting closer. Was it hooves? No, boots crunching on gravel. Ellie looked up, alarm in her eyes. "Who's out there?" Liam edged toward the tarp opening, flashlight raised, drone hovering above. "Just let me." A voice, sharp and unfamiliar, cut through the dark. "Who's there? Step away from the horses." Ellie stiffened. "Rescue team wouldn't talk like that." Sam motioned them back. He stood, hands raised, placing himself between the horses and the newcomers. 2 men appeared, shadowy figures in heavy coats, faces hidden by hoods. One carried a length of rope, the other something metallic glinting at his belt. "We're with Wildlife Rescue," Sam called out, forcing his voice to sound calm. "Just helping an injured mare?" The taller stranger sneered. "That's our business too, but I reckon we could use a fine wild mare and her foal tonight." Liam sucked in a breath. Sam could feel the tension radiating off him. Ellie edged closer to the foal, shielding it with her body. Sam kept his tone steady. "This isn't the night for trouble. We called for help. Cops'll be here soon." The man with the rope laughed, a mean, grating sound. "Cops? Out here in this weather? I don't think so." Thunder crashed again. For a second, the men's faces were lit up, hard, pale, eyes flat as stones. Sam's heart pounded. He shifted his weight, preparing to block any move they made. Liam's drone dipped lower, its light harsh and steady. The next moment stretched, tight and brittle, as everyone waited for someone to make a move. The wind picked up, the tarps flapping wildly, threatening to tear loose. Ellie whispered, "Sam, what do we do?" Sam answered without looking away from the men. "We stand our ground. We don't give up these horses, not tonight." And in that frozen instant, with the storm raging, the wild hills of South Downs became a battleground. Not just of nature, but of human greed and courage. The fight for life teetering on a knife's edge. The storm seemed to pulse with menace as Sam stood firm in the mud, eyes locked on the two strangers whose intentions were written plainly in the way they gripped their gear. The wind snapped at the tarps, sending icy rain down Sam's neck. But he didn't move, didn't even flinch. He felt Ellie's hand on his sleeve. Her fingers trembled, but her grip was determined. Behind him, Liam was already quietly shifting, edging to the side, drone hovering above, camera recording. It was a small comfort, knowing at least someone might see what happened here if things went wrong. The taller man, face gaunt, jaw bristling with stubble, smirked as he stepped closer. "No one's coming, you know. Folks like us, we take what the land gives. These wild horses, they're worth a lot more than some city folk think. Move aside?" Sam shook his head, forcing his voice to sound calm and even. "We're not moving. The mare's injured. The foal won't survive the night if you take them now. You want to make a fortune? Fine. But you'll have to go through us first." A bitter laugh cut through the wind. The shorter man, stocky and mean-eyed, spat into the mud. "Is that right? Maybe we take you too, just to make sure no one talks." Ellie edged backward, knees scraping in the muck as she shielded the foal, pressing the thermal blanket tighter around its trembling body. Her voice was low, urgent, meant only for Sam. "I'm calling for help. Radio's in my bag." Liam, catching the cue, flicked his eyes at Sam, then at the drone controller. His thumbs danced, quietly switching on the drone's emergency beacon. Its signal would ping anyone monitoring the wildlife rescue frequencies, not just the official team. Every second counted. The men didn't notice. Too busy sizing up the horses, the taller one circled, boots squelching. He pointed the coil of rope at Sam. "You're gonna regret this. Last warning?" Sam stared him down. "Try me." That was enough. The man lunged, swinging the rope. Sam ducked aside, the end cracking past his ear, mud flying. The mare, sensing violence, struggled to rise, snorting, wild-eyed. Ellie shrieked. Sam twisted, using his shoulder to shove the taller man off balance. The stranger staggered, cursing. The stockier man reached for his belt, pulling out a heavy flashlight, raising it like a club. Liam was already moving, yelling, "Back off!" as he threw himself into the fray. The drone's spotlight snapped bright, dazzling the men. In that chaos, Ellie snatched the radio and, hands shaking, mashed the emergency button. "This is South Downs Rescue Team. We need immediate backup. 2 armed men. Repeat, 2 armed men. Ugh." The radio crackled, voice distorted by static. "Copy that. Hold your position. We're 5 minutes out." Sam barely registered it. The taller man had grabbed his jacket, trying to haul him down. But Sam used his weight, feet planted, and shoved hard. The man went sprawling, skidding in the mud. The stocky one swung the flashlight at Liam, who dodged, catching the blow on his forearm with a muffled cry. The drone bobbed overhead, its camera catching everything, its light now strobing in the rain. Suddenly, the men seemed to realize things weren't going as planned. The taller one picked himself up, glared at Sam, then spat. "You people are out of your minds, risking your necks for a bunch of filthy animals." Sam glared right back, chest heaving. You call them filthy? They've got more heart than you ever will. Sirens, faint but unmistakable, rose through the gale. The men froze. The stocky one hissed, "We're out of here, now!" They bolted into the darkness, disappearing into the heather and rain. For a long moment, no one moved. The only sounds the storm and Sam's ragged breathing. Then Ellie let out a sob, not of fear, but of release. She clung to the foal, her body shaking. Liam dropped to his knees, cradling his arm. "That was close." Sam hurried to him. "You okay?" Liam nodded, wincing. "Hurts, but nothing's broken. I got the whole thing on the drone. Those jerks are on camera with audio. Cops'll have their faces and their threats." Sam let out a slow breath, chest unclenching just a little. "Good job. Ellie, you all right?" Ellie wiped her eyes, then shook her head, forcing a smile. Yeah. The foal's breathing steadier, but she's still so cold." "Sam, I don't know if she'll make it." Sam crouched next to her, drawing the foil blanket tighter around the little body. The mare watched, eyes wide with exhaustion and worry. Sam stroked her muzzle, voice rough but gentle. "You're safe, Mama. You did good. We'll keep fighting." The flashing blue lights of the rescue team finally cut through the night. 2 officers in heavy parkas jogged up, boots splashing. "Everyone all right?" Liam pointed, voice tight. "The men went that way, down the north slope. They tried to take the horses, attacked us. Got it all on drone." The officers exchanged a look, then one radioed for backup while the other knelt by Sam. "Let's get you folks checked out." "Who's hurt?" Sam waved him off. "We're fine, mostly. The horses, especially the foal, they need help more than we do." While one officer tended to Liam's arm, the other turned to Ellie. She explained the mare's injury, the foal's state, her voice growing steadier with each word. Together, they used the medical kit to finish stitching the mare's wound, then worked to wrap the foal in more blankets. The rescue team brought a portable heater, warming the little horse while checking its pulse and breathing. With the threat gone, exhaustion settled over the group like another heavy blanket. Liam finally allowed himself to slump against a backpack, breathing hard. "That was way more adventure than I signed up for tonight." Sam managed a tired laugh. "Remind me to buy you both a pint when this is over, if the pub's not underwater." Ellie smiled, her face streaked with rain and tears, eyes locked on the foal's slow, shallow breaths. "We just need her to hang on. That's all that matters." The storm raged on outside their small shelter, but for now, the group had carved out a fragile safety. Sam watched the mare lay her head down beside her foal, eyes fluttering closed, the tension in her body easing just a little. Above them, the drone's light glowed steady, a small beacon of hope in the wild, wet dark. No one spoke much as they waited, everyone lost in their thoughts. Worry, relief, and the fierce determination to keep fighting for the wild things of South Downs, no matter what the night or the world might throw their way. The storm still lashed the tarps and sent gusts whistling around their makeshift shelter, but the raw urgency of survival had faded, replaced by a heavy, weary calm. The 2 officers busied themselves with securing the scene and keeping watch for any sign of the poachers returning. Liam sat hunched over his controller, the drone finally docked and powering down beside him, his left arm in a makeshift sling, wincing each time he shifted. Sam and Ellie focused on the horses, their hands moving almost automatically, experience and instinct taking over as the adrenaline faded. Ellie checked the foal's heartbeat again, her brow furrowed with concern. "She's stronger now. Still cold, but her breathing's better. I think she might pull through." Sam let out a breath he didn't know he'd been holding. Good. She's a fighter, like her mama. He stroked the mare's neck, the big animal's flanks still shuddering with every breath. How's her leg? Ellie dabbed at the bandaged wound. Stable. We stopped the bleeding. She'll need more care at the center, but she's not in immediate danger. If the rescue truck gets here soon, we can move them both. One officer poked his head into the shelter, his flashlight beam jittering over their faces. Road's a mess, but our truck's a quarter-mile away. We'll help you carry the little one. Get everyone loaded up. Sam nodded gratefully, then leaned back on his heels, his gaze drifting out into the darkness beyond the safety of the tarps. The wild hills seemed endless and haunted tonight, the land itself battered but unbroken. For the first time in hours, Sam let his mind drift, the adrenaline leaving him vulnerable to memories he usually kept locked away. He remembered, years ago, coming over these same ridges as a rookie warden. The wild horses had been plentiful then, their coats glistening in the dawn mist. He'd believed back then that he could protect them all. He could still see the old stallion he'd followed for weeks, a proud beast with a scar over one eye, always alert, always leading. Then came the night hunters, and the long chase, and the quiet horror of finding half the herd vanished by sunrise. Sam's fists clenched, mud squishing between his fingers. He forced himself to breathe, to let the old pain drift past. Tonight, at least, they'd saved a mare and her foal. Ellie sat back on her heels, wrapping her arms around her knees. Her eyes were fixed on the foal, but her mind was elsewhere. After a while, she spoke, her voice soft. You know, I became a vet because of nights like this. When I was little, my dad took me to see the wild ponies in Cornwall. I thought they were magic. I promised I'd help them someday. I never imagined it would be this hard, or that I'd lose as many as I'd save. Sam offered a tired, knowing smile. They teach you that in school, how to handle the heartbreak? Ellie shook her head, lips curling into a wry grin. No, they just tell you to be brave. They don't tell you how it hurts when you can't fix everything. The officer returned with a flask, passing it around. Liam took a swig and let out a low laugh, the sound a little ragged but genuine. I got into all this for the tech, you know. Drones, tracking collars, mapping, made sense in my head. Then my first week on the job, my drone got taken out by a seagull with a grudge. Nearly lost the whole herd in the fog, too. Even Ellie smiled at that. Guess we've all had close calls. Liam nodded, then looked at the foal, his usual humor softening. Still, nothing beats this. Doesn't matter how fancy your gear is. Sometimes it's just you, mud, and stubborn hope. No app for that. The group went quiet again, each person lost in their own reflection as the wind howled outside. Sam realized how rare it was to feel this kind of connection, a bond formed not by words, but by facing fear and failure together. He looked at Ellie, then at Liam, and felt something like pride stir inside him. Ellie reached over, squeezing Sam's shoulder gently. You've seen more than most. How do you keep going? He shrugged, voice rough. You do it for nights like this. When you win, even if it's just for one foal, one mare. Maybe it's selfish. Maybe it's all any of us can do. Liam fiddled with his sling, then broke the heaviness with a smirk. That, and I'd never survive a 9-to-5 job. I mean, have you seen me in a tie? Ellie giggled, the tension finally cracking. You'd scare the horses off. Sam couldn't help but grin, the corners of his mouth twitching. You scare me and I've faced down more wild things than I can count. The laughter faded, replaced by a gentle peace. The storm outside was beginning to break. The rain was lighter, the wind a little less brutal. In the distance, Sam could hear the first tentative calls of songbirds braving the dawn. The sky was still dark, but the worst was passing. One of the officers stood, brushing mud from his knees. "Rescue trucks here. Let's get these horses loaded up. Sun'll be up soon, and you all need some rest." Sam reached for the foal, careful to keep her wrapped and warm, and lifted her gently into his arms. Ellie stroked the mare's neck, whispering encouragement. Liam followed close, steadying the portable heater and keeping the path lit as they trudged through the wet grass toward the waiting truck. As they walked, Sam looked back once over his shoulder, eyes searching the battered hills. He thought about the battles still to come, the poachers, the storms, the endless struggle to protect what couldn't speak for itself. But for this night, at least, he felt something he hadn't felt in a long time. Hope. They loaded the mare and foal into the rescue van, shut the doors, and finally, as the first faint glow touched the horizon, drove toward the future. Together, a little bruised, a little wiser, but unbroken by the wildness of the world. The rescue truck rumbled down the narrow country road, tires hissing over slick asphalt, headlights barely cutting through the lingering fog and drizzle. Sam sat in the back with the mare and her foal, one hand steady on the foal's chest to feel every breath, every flutter of life. Ellie crouched beside him, prepping a new IV bag for the mare, murmuring soothing words, her eyes constantly flicking between mother and child. The heat from the van's portable unit did little against the deep cold that seemed to have settled in everyone's bones. Liam rode up front beside the driver, cradling his arm, trying to rest, but he kept glancing in the rear view, scanning the road behind them. Even after the confrontation on the hill, he couldn't shake the sense that trouble was still out there, somewhere in the dark. The officers followed in their patrol vehicle, blue lights now dimmed, their presence both comfort and a sharp reminder of the night's danger. Halfway down the twisting road, as the van slowed for a fallen branch, Sam's phone buzzed. He answered, tucking it between chin and shoulder. "Turner." A gruff voice crackled through. "Sam, it's McIntyre at the Wildlife Center. Got your message. Any sign of those poachers coming back?" Sam kept his voice even. "Not yet, but they know we have the mare and foal. Keep extra eyes on the barn tonight, and make sure the staff are safe. Those men won't give up easy." "Copy that. You just get here in one piece." The call ended, but tension coiled in Sam's gut. He could see it in Ellie's face, too. She leaned closer, voice barely above a whisper. "Sam, if those men find out where we're taking the horses..." Sam shook his head. "We're not letting that happen." Liam's footage went straight to the cloud. "Cops have everything. We just have to keep moving, stay alert." But even as he said it, a set of headlights appeared far behind them, too bright, too persistent. Liam called back, his voice tense. "That car's been following since the village. Could be nothing, but..." The driver pressed on, picking up speed as the road straightened. Sam kept one eye on the foal, one ear on the rising hum of the engine. Ellie reached for the tranquilizer kit, prepping a dose just in case the mare panicked. The van took a sharp turn onto a gravel lane that wound toward the Wildlife Center, bouncing over ruts and potholes. Behind them, the headlights followed, closer now. The patrol car dropped back to block the lane, its siren chirping once, warning the other vehicle away. The pursuing car slowed, paused in the mist, then turned around and vanished into the trees. Sam let out a shaky breath. Let's not take any more detours. The rest of the ride was tense but uneventful. By the time they arrived at the Wildlife Center, a collection of low, sturdy barns and modern medical sheds tucked behind old hedgerows, the sky was growing pale, and the first birds were calling from the dripping trees. A handful of staff in raincoats met them at the gate, rushing forward to help unload the precious cargo. Inside the brightly lit barn, the air was warm and filled with the earthy scent of straw and antiseptic. The mare, still unsteady but more alert now, let herself be led into a clean stall, her eyes tracking every movement of the humans around her. Ellie and Sam gently lifted the foal, still swaddled in blankets, onto a soft mat beside her mother. The foal gave a faint, questioning whinny. The mare responded instantly, stretching her neck to nuzzle the little one, relief written in every line of her body. Ellie exhaled, then leaned against the wall, her exhaustion catching up to her. I didn't think we'd make it. I really didn't. Sam touched her shoulder, voice gentle. We did. You did. You saved them both. Liam appeared in the doorway, his arm now properly bandaged by the center's nurse. I've uploaded all the footage. Police say they've identified one of the poachers. They'll patrol the area for the next few days. We'll have to be on our guard, but at least the worst of it's over for now. The relief in the barn was palpable, but there was no real rest. Not yet. The storm outside began to build again, heavy drops drumming on the tin roof. Staff hurried to secure doors and check the animals. Sam saw tension flicker in everyone's eyes. Storms always made the wild creatures nervous, and now, after the night's chaos, the humans were jumpy too. As the hours crawled on, the rain intensified. The power flickered twice, the lights humming and then coming back even brighter. Ellie worked with the vet team to start fluids for the foal, checking its temperature and heart rate. The mare, weak but determined, refused to lie down, her body a living shield for her baby. A sudden shout echoed from the far side of the barn. Sam turned, instincts prickling. A volunteer rushed in, breathless. There's movement at the fence. Saw someone in the trees? Liam cursed under his breath. Sam motioned for silence, grabbed a heavy flashlight, and slipped outside with one of the officers. The rain soaked them instantly, but Sam pushed through the muddy yard, his boots sinking with every step. He played the beam over the hedgerows, the ancient stone wall, searching for any sign. An unfamiliar footprint, a broken branch, a glint of metal. Nothing but rain, darkness, and the shiver of the wind in the trees. Sam shook his head, jaw tight. Keep patrols up. If someone's out there, they'll try again. Back inside, he found Ellie and Liam keeping close watch over the horses. Ellie looked up, worry and determination fighting in her expression. We'll protect them, Sam, no matter what. Sam nodded. We're not just fighting the weather out here, or the poachers. It's the fear, the idea that people can do whatever they want, and no one stands up for the wild things anymore. Liam managed a tired grin. Then let's prove them wrong. Outside, the storm raged on, but in the warmth of the barn, under the watchful eyes of those who cared, hope flickered and refused to be snuffed out. The battle wasn't over, but tonight, on these battered hills, it felt like the wild had found new defenders, human and horse alike, willing to risk everything to keep the darkness at bay. The storm howled around the Wildlife Center, wind battering the walls with relentless fury, rain hammering the roof so hard that it drowned out almost every other sound. The barn lights flickered again as another gust rattled the windows, and Sam could see the tension on every face. No one trusted the electricity to hold out much longer. Outside, the night was black and wild. Tree branches bending dangerously, debris tumbling across the yard. Inside the barn, though, it was a different world. Warm, golden, tense with hope and fear. Sam hovered by the mare's stall, arms folded across his chest, eyes fixed on the little foal curled up beside her mother. Ellie knelt in the straw, checking the foal's temperature, her voice soft as she spoke to both horses. Liam stood watch at the window, walkie-talkie in hand, his body tight with nervous energy, glancing out into the swirling dark for any sign of unwanted visitors. The power flickered again, once, twice, then steadied. Everyone froze for a second, half expecting darkness, but the lights stayed on. Sam let out a slow breath. If that goes, we're in trouble. The heaters won't last on battery alone. Ellie looked up, her brow creased. We can use the portable generator for the med equipment, but it won't be enough to heat the whole barn. If it gets colder, the foal won't make it. Sam crouched beside her. We'll keep her warm, no matter what. I'll haul in more blankets, hay, whatever it takes. Liam joined them, voice tense. I set up an extra camera by the back fence. The cops are still patrolling, but if those poachers try anything, we'll know. He forced a quick grin. Can't believe I'm hoping for boring security footage tonight. A distant crash echoed through the storm. Maybe a tree falling, maybe just wind. Sam stiffened, then shook his head. Stay inside. Nothing out there but trouble. The next hour passed in uneasy routine. Checking equipment, monitoring the foal's temperature, keeping the mare calm as thunder rattled the window panes. The storm showed no sign of letting up. The radio crackled every so often, reports of flooded roads, downed power lines, neighbors checking in with each other, everyone battered but holding on. Ellie moved constantly, hands never idle. She fed the foal with a syringe, coaxing her to swallow a little more with every attempt, whispering encouragement between each tiny victory. Sam busied himself bringing in extra straw and tarps, fortifying the stall as best he could against the cold drafts creeping in under the doors. But even as they worked, the toll of exhaustion began to show. Liam's eyelids drooped as he sat guard with the walkie-talkie, barely awake. Sam felt the ache in his knees and back, every muscle sore, every bone tired from fighting both weather and fear. Ellie finally sat back on her heels, shivering in her damp clothes. Sam, I can't tell if she's getting better or worse. Sometimes I think she's stronger. Then she won't move for 10 minutes. Sam squeezed her shoulder, voice steady. You're doing everything right. So's her mama. She wouldn't be alive now if it weren't for you. A violent gust shook the building, rattling a loose window shutter so hard it almost came off its hinges. Sam leapt up, running to brace it with a plank and some baling twine. Ellie pressed her back to the mare's side, using her own body as a shield for the foal, wrapping them both in the biggest thermal blanket she could find. She could feel the mare's breath, warm and steady against her arm, and the trembling life of the foal tucked close. For a while, it felt like the storm would never end. Sam could barely hear the sound of his own thoughts over the shrieking wind and the drumbeat of rain, but then, as suddenly as it had started, there was a brief lull, a pocket of quiet that seemed almost unreal. Ellie's voice cut through the stillness. Sam, look. He turned. The mare had shifted, gently nudging her foal upright. The little one, legs trembling, tried to stand. 1, 2, 3 unsteady tries, and then, against all odds, she managed it, teetering on wobbly legs, but upright all the same. Ellie's face broke into a tired but dazzling smile. She's standing. She's really... A flash of lightning lit up the whole barn. and a crack of thunder rattled the timbers. The foal startled, but the mare pressed close, shielding her, calming her with a low nicker. Sam knelt beside them, his eyes wet, a lump in his throat. Liam called from the far end of the barn, voice shaky but relieved. "Generators holding. Cops say all clear for now. Whatever was in those trees is gone. Maybe it was just the storm." Ellie slumped against the stall door, every bit of energy gone, but her smile didn't fade. That's all we needed, just one sign she's not giving up. Sam sat down beside her, leaning back against the old wood, shoulders finally sagging with fatigue and a strange, stubborn hope. "You know, every time I think this world's too hard for wild things, something like this happens. Reminds me not to quit." Ellie closed her eyes, letting the exhaustion take her for a moment, her hand still resting on the foal's back. "Me too." For a while there was no sound, but the wind winding down and the soft, steady breathing of the horses. Outside, the rain began to ease. The wild edges of the storm finally blunted. Inside, in the warmth and dim light of the barn, Sam, Ellie, and Liam watched over the battered little family, refusing to surrender to the darkness or the cold. No one said it aloud, but each of them knew, sometimes, survival meant holding on, together, until the storm finally passed. And in that moment, even as the world outside howled, there was a promise inside these walls. They would not give up. Not tonight. Not ever. The barn had grown eerily quiet in the storm's aftermath. The steady tap of rain on the roof replaced by a soft, almost reverent hush. Dawn crept in slowly, a pale gray light filtering through the small windows, chasing away the shadows but not the exhaustion in every corner. For the first time since their arrival, the team allowed themselves to hope, just a little, that the worst was behind them. Sam didn't leave the stall, not even when the other keepers came with hot tea and food. He sat in the straw, back against the boards, legs stretched out beside the mare, who stood protectively over her foal. The little one had managed another shaky attempt at standing, and Ellie had gently rubbed her down with towels, whispering encouragement, not caring who heard. Liam drifted in and out of sleep in a corner chair, walkie-talkie resting on his chest, the security feeds looping quietly on his tablet. But beneath that fragile peace, a tension lingered, an unspoken fear that the story wasn't over, that something precious might still slip away before their eyes. Sam could see it in the mare's eyes. She watched her foal with a kind of desperate love, her sides heaving with every breath, her head drooping lower with each passing hour. The bandages on her leg had soaked through once and needed changing. Her temperature was dangerously low, even with all the heaters and blankets. Ellie checked her vitals again and again, adjusting IV drips. But there was a heaviness to her movements, a dawning realization. Sam finally broke the silence, his voice rough. "She's getting weaker. Ellie, what else can we do?" Ellie shook her head, her eyes brimming. "Not much. I've given her fluids, pain meds, everything I can. She lost too much blood in the storm. If she rests, maybe she'll rally. But I don't know, Sam. Sometimes they just let go." Sam felt his chest tighten. He reached out, brushing the mare's forelock, speaking softly, almost to himself. "Don't give up, girl. Your baby needs you." The mare shifted, gathering herself with a visible effort. The foal, sensing her mother's distress, whickered softly and nudged her side. The mare lowered her head, nuzzling her foal, breathing in her scent, and Sam realized, with a pang so sharp it nearly stopped his heart, that the mare was saying goodbye. Ellie saw it too, Her voice broke as she spoke. Sam, sometimes, they know. They use up every last bit of strength to keep their young safe, and when they're sure, they let go. Liam woke, rubbing sleep from his eyes, confusion quickly replaced by sorrow as he saw the scene before him. He moved quietly to the stall door, watching as the mare made her final stand. With every ounce of will, the mare pressed her body close to the foal, shielding her from a sudden chill that snuck in through a crack in the old barn wall. The foal wobbled, then sank to her knees, curling tight against her mother's warmth. For a few endless moments, no one spoke or moved. Sam felt tears sting his eyes, but he blinked them away, unwilling to let go of hope. Ellie knelt on the other side, stroking the mare's neck, whispering the same words over and over. "It's okay, girl. We're here. Your baby's safe. You did everything you could." The mare's breathing grew shallower, each inhale a battle. Her ears flicked one last time, her gaze landing on Sam, then on Ellie, and finally settling on her foal. She nuzzled the little one, lips trembling, then rested her head on the straw, her body curving protectively around her baby. With a long, trembling sigh, she stilled, her eyes half closed, her chest rising and falling slower, until it stopped. Ellie pressed her forehead to the mare's neck, tears running down her face. "Thank you. Thank you for trusting us." Liam's voice was a ragged whisper. "I thought we could save her. I thought—" Sam shook his head, his own tears silent. "We did save her. We gave her a chance to say goodbye. We kept her foal safe. Sometimes that's all you can do." The foal shivered, confused, mewling for her mother. Ellie immediately scooped her up, wrapping her in blankets, cradling her close. "I've got you, sweetheart. You're not alone." Sam ran a hand through his hair, looking up at the faded sunlight now filtering through the dust and hay motes. She gave everything she had. For her baby. For us. For a long while, the group sat in the straw, mourning in silence. The other keepers joined them, hats removed, heads bowed in respect. The old barn had seen many births and many losses, but this one felt different, more intimate, more heroic. The sacrifice of the wild mare cut through every cynicism and every weariness that the work had brought over the years. Liam finally spoke, his words careful, reverent. "She was the last of her herd, wasn't she?" Sam nodded. "Yeah, the last lead mare on South Downs. Her line goes back centuries. Now, all we have left is her foal." Ellie hugged the little horse closer, her tears subsiding, replaced by a fierce, stubborn hope. "We'll keep her alive, Sam. For her mother. For the herd." Sam put a steady hand on Ellie's shoulder. "We'll do it together. None of this is in vain. Every life matters. Every sacrifice." Outside, the sun finally broke through the last of the clouds, a shaft of golden light falling on the mare and her foal. Sam closed his eyes, breathing deep, letting the pain and gratitude mingle in his chest. He knew the road ahead would be hard. Raising a wild foal was never easy, and the threats to their sanctuary would not disappear with the storm. But for now, in the quiet of the barn, hope and sorrow existed side by side, each giving meaning to the other. The team remained with the horses until the morning was full and bright, each one changed by what they'd witnessed, each one determined to honor the wild mare's sacrifice. As Sam looked at the foal, blinking at the new world around her, he made a silent promise. "We'll fight for you, little one. We'll fight for them all." And as the day began, The legacy of the mare's courage echoed quietly through the hills. Fragile, precious, and impossibly strong. The hours after the mare's passing passed in a blur of sorrow and purpose. Grief hung heavy in the barn, but it quickly transformed into resolve. Every moment spent tending to the tiny foal felt sacred, as if the wild mare herself was watching over their shoulders, willing them to succeed. Sam, Ellie, Liam, and the rest of the Wildlife Center staff moved with new determination, their exhaustion forgotten as they worked through the day. The foal, wrapped snugly in blankets, nestled close to Ellie. She nickered for her mother and often looked around, eyes wide and uncertain. But Ellie was always there, whispering soft encouragement, rubbing her neck and holding her steady when her spindly legs trembled. They named her Hope, almost without discussion. It just felt right, like the promise her mother had left behind. The team knew the next 24 hours would be critical. Ellie hardly left Hope's side, feeding her every 2 hours with warm milk replacement, adjusting the heating pad, and singing quietly to her whenever she seemed frightened. Sam worked with the staff to keep the barn as warm and quiet as possible, stringing up extra tarps and double-checking every lock and window. Liam became the unofficial gatekeeper, monitoring the security cameras and fielding calls from law enforcement, media, and concerned locals. News of the dramatic rescue and the mare's sacrifice spread fast. Liam's drone footage, uploaded with a heartfelt note from Sam, quickly gained traction on social media. By midday, animal lovers across the country were sharing the video, flooding the Wildlife Center's inbox with donations, volunteer offers, and messages of support. The story had struck a chord. People were moved by the image of the wild mare giving everything to shield her foal, and by the sight of Hope, trembling but alive, standing as a testament to her mother's courage. But all the public attention did nothing to lessen the team's anxiety. Hope's recovery was still uncertain. She was eating, but not as much as they'd like. Every small whinny, every shaky step, every drop of milk swallowed was a victory. Ellie kept careful notes, charting the foal's temperature, weight, and every hint of improvement. Sam watched over them both, rarely leaving the barn, his heart in his throat each time Hope stumbled or seemed too quiet. Late that evening, after another round of feedings, the barn filled with a sudden, gentle warmth. The worst of the storm had passed, and soft, golden light filtered through the open doors. Sam stood with Ellie, looking down at the foal curled in the straw. For a long moment, neither said anything. Finally, Sam spoke, his voice rough but hopeful. "You did good, Ellie. She's a fighter, just like her mother." Ellie managed a tired smile. "I wish she didn't have to fight so hard. I wish her mother could see her now." Sam nodded, kneeling to stroke Hope's fuzzy mane. "She'd be proud. And you never gave up, not once." Ellie brushed a tear from her cheek. "None of us did. I think that's why she's still here." Liam entered with his tablet, a rare grin lighting up his face. "You two need to see this. Hope's gone viral. We've got people from all over sending support. Kids are writing letters, schools are asking if they can come visit, and donations are pouring in. Looks like the world needed a little hope after that storm, too." Ellie laughed softly, glancing down at the foal. "You hear that, little one? You're famous now." Sam stood, a new energy in his step. Maybe this is what it takes. A story like hers. One that reminds people why these animals matter. Why we fight so hard for them. Liam scrolled through comments and photos, showing Sam and Ellie the messages pouring in. One showed a drawing from a young girl, a picture of a wild horse, standing proud beneath a rainbow, with the word hope written in bright, blocky letters above it. Another was a video message from a classroom, the children waving and shouting, "We love you, Hope! Be strong!" The outpouring of support lifted everyone's spirits. Even the most stoic of the staff, who'd seen more than their share of heartbreak, couldn't help but smile as they watched Hope take her first steps around the stall, her legs still trembling, but her head held a little higher each time. As night fell, the Wildlife Center buzzed with a sense of community and purpose. Volunteers arrived with donations of blankets, hay, and milk powder. Local farmers stopped by to offer their support, some remembering wild horses from their childhood, sharing stories of herds that once thundered across the downs. Ellie organized short tours for children, carefully bringing small groups into the barn to meet Hope, each child wide-eyed, whispering, awed by the tiny miracle before them. Hope's strength grew by the hour. With every careful feeding, every gentle pat, and every word of encouragement, she seemed to find her footing a bit more. By midnight, she was able to stand and walk a few paces, her wobbly legs straightening, her eyes brighter. Ellie cried tears of relief as Hope nuzzled her hand, seeking warmth and comfort. Sam sat on a bale of straw, watching the little foal explore her new world, his own heart swelling with gratitude and determination. He looked at Liam, who was busy uploading another update for the center's followers. "You know, maybe this isn't just about saving one foal," Sam said quietly. "Maybe it's about showing everyone that these wild things matter, that there's still hope for them, if we care enough to fight for it." Liam nodded, his smile softer now. "That's the story we're telling, and hope's just the beginning." Outside, the last of the clouds drifted away, revealing a sky full of stars. Inside, the barn glowed with quiet joy and renewed resolve. Hope, the foal and what she stood for, had already begun to inspire a movement. And as Sam, Ellie, Liam, and the rest of the team finally allowed themselves to rest for a few short hours, they did so knowing that the wild mare's legacy would live on, not just in her daughter, but in everyone touched by her story. Over the next week, the Wildlife Center became the unlikely heart of the South Downs. The story of hope, the orphaned foal, the wild mare's sacrifice, the relentless storm, had traveled far and wide. School children drew pictures and sent them in by the dozens. Volunteers came to help, some strangers, some neighbors who had never stepped through the center's doors before. Journalists wanted interviews. Animal lovers sent supplies and letters, each one filled with gratitude and encouragement. But for Sam, Ellie, Liam, and the rest of the staff, the greatest change was in the way people now talked about the wild horses of the Downs. No longer were they a forgotten relic or an afterthought on a list of endangered species. Now, every conversation, every news segment, every excited child's question seemed to circle back to hope and what she stood for. Sam found himself giving impromptu tours to families who'd driven hours just for the chance to see the foal. He saw tears in the eyes of grown men as they stood quietly at the edge of the stall, watching Hope take her first uncertain steps, the mare's old halter hanging on the wall as a silent reminder. On a gray Saturday morning, a group of local children came for a special visit. They crowded into the barn, boots muddy, eyes wide, their teacher whispering for quiet as Ellie lifted Hope for them to see. The foal's coat had fluffed out, her eyes curious, her legs steadier now. She nuzzled into Ellie's arm, unafraid, and the children gasped in awe. Sam stood beside them, hands in his pockets, feeling a wave of something deep and old, pride maybe, or something even more powerful. He knelt so he could meet their eyes. "You see her? She's strong because her mother was strong, and because all of you are helping to keep her safe. A boy in a red scarf asked, "Will she ever go back to the wild?" Ellie answered gently, "We hope so. We'll raise her, teach her what her mother would have. If she grows big and healthy, we'll find a way for her to join a herd, maybe even start one herself." The teacher looked at Sam, her eyes shining. "What can we do to help?" Sam paused, wanting to choose his words with care. "You can tell her story. You can care about every animal, not just the famous ones. And you can remember that everything wild in these hills matters, even if you only see them for a moment." Later that day, the team sat together for a quiet lunch in the staff room. The walls were lined with fresh artwork, Hope's name in colorful letters, and notes from visitors. Liam sipped his tea, grinning at the steady ping of donation notifications on his phone. "Never thought I'd see the day the world cared about our corner of the Downs, or that a foal would have her own hashtag." Sam shook his head, smiling. "That's the world now. People need hope. And this little one, she's it for a lot of folks." Ellie leaned back, exhaustion finally lifting a little. "It's more than just hope, though. It's about what her mother did, the way she fought for her foal, the way she didn't give up, not even when it cost her everything. I keep thinking about it, Sam. What drives an animal to do that?" Sam's voice was soft. "Same thing that drives us, I guess. Love, duty, something older than words." Liam set his mug down, his usual humor gone. "All the tech in the world couldn't have saved that mare. It was you and Ellie fighting in the mud. The old ways, the new ways, they have to work together. We can't just rely on gadgets and apps. We have to get our hands dirty, care enough to do the hard work." The conversation drifted, but the mood in the room was changed. Serious, reflective, united. Each person felt the weight of the wild mare's sacrifice. It became a kind of quiet vow. They would never let her death be in vain. That evening, Sam led a public talk in the barn. Locals and visitors gathered on benches set among the hay bales, lanterns casting a warm glow over the scene. Hope slept nearby, a living symbol of everything they'd fought for. Sam stood before them, speaking plainly but with a force that silenced the crowd. "We talk about conservation like it's something big, something someone else is responsible for. But it's not. It's here, in our hands, in our choices. That mare, she did what any mother would. She protected her young, no matter the cost. Nature isn't just pretty scenery or something for documentaries. It's alive, it's messy, it's fierce and fragile all at once." He paused, meeting their eyes. "If we want a world where wild horses still run these hills, where there's space for creatures like Hope, it's up to every one of us. Not just the government, not just the scientists, everyone." Ellie stepped forward, her words clear and full of feeling. "Her mother taught us something too, that animals aren't so different from us. They love, they protect, they grieve. We owe them respect. We owe them a future." Liam spoke from the back, his usual humor replaced by sincerity. "The drones, the technology, they're just tools. They only matter if we use them with compassion. What happened here is proof that the old and new ways can work together if our hearts are in the right place." As the crowd listened, Sam realized the story had become larger than the little foal or the stormy night that started it all. It was about the interconnectedness of everything: people, animals, the land itself. The lesson was simple but profound. Every small action mattered. Every act of care and courage left a mark on the world. When the talk ended, people lingered, reluctant to let go of the sense of hope that had filled the barn. parents promised their children they'd come back to visit. A farmer shook Sam's hand, vowing to keep his fields open for any wild herds. And Ellie watched Hope sleep, her face lit with pride and possibility. As the moon rose over the South Downs, the message was clear. The wild was not alone. It had friends, defenders, storytellers, and now, because of one mare's sacrifice, a new generation ready to stand up for what was right. And in the quiet that followed, the foal's soft breathing became a kind of prayer, a promise that the story would continue, so long as there were people willing to listen, to care, and to fight for hope. In the weeks and months that followed, Hope's story became part of the very fabric of the South Downs. Her presence grew into a symbol, not just for the center or the staff, but for the entire region. The once quiet wildlife barn became a place of pilgrimage. Children's laughter filled the yard as families arrived from far and wide, eager to catch a glimpse of the now energetic foal who had survived so much. Ellie stood at the stall each morning, mug of tea in hand, watching Hope kick up her heels in the paddock. The foal had grown stronger, bolder by the day, her legs steady, her eyes bright, her spirit unmistakably wild. She no longer cried out for her mother in the night. Instead, she seemed to carry her mother's courage within her, facing the world with curiosity and stubborn joy. The staff marveled at her resilience. Each milestone, a gallop in the field, a playful nudge at Sam, the first time she ventured to the fence to greet a group of wide-eyed children, felt like a shared victory. Sam found himself changed, too. He spent more time with the visitors, telling them about the horses, the storms, and the fight to protect the wild things that called the Downs home. He found purpose in guiding school groups through the meadows, helping them spot hoof prints, or telling them how, on nights like the one when Hope was born, the hills came alive with the sound of hooves and wind. He felt the old weight of loss ease, replaced by a sense of pride and stewardship. It wasn't just about survival anymore. It was about legacy, about making sure the wild would endure after he was gone. Liam's work took on a new urgency. He launched new projects, a camera trap network to monitor the remaining herds, outreach programs in local schools, a series of live streams that let anyone in the world watch hope grow. He even started a podcast, interviewing wildlife experts and telling stories from the field. His voice, once always full of jokes, now carried something else, a certainty that every story, no matter how small, could make a difference. But it was Ellie who carried the deepest transformation. She saw it in the eyes of every animal she treated, heard it in the questions of every child she met. The wild mare's sacrifice had changed her. It made her braver, more determined, and, in the quietest moments, more grateful. She kept the old lead mare's halter on the barn wall, a reminder of what they'd lost and what they'd gained. One sunlit afternoon, as Hope raced around the paddock, her mane flying in the wind, Ellie called out to Sam and Liam, "She's ready." Sam joined her by the fence, grinning as Hope skidded to a stop in front of them, snorting happily. Liam lifted his camera, capturing the moment as children cheered from the sidelines. Sam laughed. Who would have believed it? That little scrap of life from the storm. Ellie nodded. She's more than we could have hoped for. She's a symbol now. Not just for us, but for everyone who believes the wild should have a future. That autumn, the center hosted a special day. Hundreds of visitors arrived, packing the meadows with picnics and kites, their faces shining with anticipation. The staff unveiled a new sign, Hope's Meadow, dedicated to the wild horses of the South Downs, and to the mare whose courage had inspired it all. Children played, volunteers ran tours, and the community came together in a way Sam had rarely seen before. People left flowers at the old mare's memorial, some kneeling in quiet gratitude, others simply standing in silent respect. Ellie gave a speech under the big oak tree. She spoke of the storm, of sacrifice, of the will to survive. She told the story of Hope's first steps, her setbacks, and her triumphs. We called her Hope because that's what she gave us. Not just a future for her kind, but a reason to keep fighting for every wild thing that still lives on these hills. The wild isn't separate from us. It's a part of who we are. Sam followed, sharing what he'd learned, not just about horses, but about people. It's easy to feel small, he said, like what we do can't possibly matter in the face of loss and change. But every act of care, every hand that helps, every voice that speaks for those who can't, it all adds up. Hope showed us that. Her mother showed us that. We can be the difference. Liam ended the ceremony with a short film, splicing together drone footage, interviews, and the drawings sent in by children all over England. On the screen, images of Hope running, nuzzling Ellie's hand, and dozing under the old barn roof played alongside the messages from children. The final image lingered, the wild mare, standing guard in the storm, her body sheltering her foal. For a long moment, no one spoke. The message was clear without words. As dusk settled, families drifted away, promising to return. Teachers made plans for future field trips. Local farmers discussed new conservation projects, and young volunteers vowed to come back every weekend. Sam, Ellie, and Liam stood at the paddock fence, watching Hope graze under the fading light. Ellie broke the silence. Do you think her mother knows, wherever she is, that her sacrifice meant something? Sam looked at Hope, then out across the wild, rolling hills. I do. I think every wild thing that's ever fought for life leaves something behind, something bigger than any storm. Liam grinned. Her story's just beginning, and so is ours. As night fell over Hope's meadow, the barn lights glowed like beacons against the dark. The foal, no longer quite so small, bounded across the field, her shadow long and strong. Sam closed his eyes, breathed deep the wild, clean air, and felt peace settle in his bones. Maybe the wild would always be fragile, always need defending. But as long as there were people willing to listen, to care, and to act, there would be hope, alive and running, like a wild foal on a windswept hill. So remember this story. Remember what one night, one mare, one small group of people can do. The world is changed by small acts of courage and compassion. Sometimes all it takes is a single spark. If you believe in hope, keep fighting for it. And if this story moved you, please like and follow our channel. So together, we can make sure the wild endures for generations to come.